Okay. You guys can see like the screen, right? The Kali Linux one. Like you see my terminal opened here.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, sounds good. So today I'm gonna be going over log analysis and network traffic analysis. It's gonna be the two categories here in the gymnasium if you guys want to log in as well to kind of do it with me, but if not, you guys can always just like look at it and do it on your own time. It's gonna be these two categories. So and these are gonna be like more hands-on because this is more of like an in kind of do it yourself kind of thing that you just have to get used to and just practicing with the commands. In the cheat sheet though, I'm gonna be writing a bunch of commands so you don't have to remember it yourself. Let me have check. Oh yeah, I just started recording, so it's gonna be saved. Is that what you wanted to raise your hand for, Vinny? Oh, okay, yeah, but let me just put it like this. All right, now I have the chat open, so feel free to type. My bad. But yeah, so starting with this first exercise, what I like to do is always download the log so that way I can just use it in my terminal here because for some questions it would just give you the packet, but for other questions, pretty sure, yeah, for this one, like it gives you a terminal that you can work with, which is nice. So you don't always have to be on your virtual machine. You can do some challenges just on the web. But for this one, it doesn't because for this one, you can mini solve by just looking through it, but if you use commands, it'll be easier and better to look at. So if I download it here, and log analysis is just basically looking through logs. So you see over here now it's like nice and compiled better. And with log analysis, you basically want to use a lot of commands that sort through the log. And I'm just gonna go over some commands right now. Let me see where it is. Because with this easy one, like if you think like this is a lot of information, it can get way more and a log can be like more than like 1,000 lines and you just need to know the commands that can help you out to sort specific information that you're looking for. So to go with this question, we want to go what's the host name of the SSH server. And this is something simply that you can find by just looking at the format and seeing if you've seen the logs already. They usually follow format of like time and date and like the host name and then specific like what type of software it's using. If you didn't know that, you can also search up like log formats and then see what format lines up with this one. Because sometimes you'll see that it won't be as neat as this where it tells you October 11th, 10, 12. It'll just be like a bunch of random numbers because there's different formats that use computer time, which is called epoch. It's like spelled like this. And let me just bring up an example here. Nice. So yeah, for it might look like this. Actually, it's in one of the NTL things for this one. So this has a different format. The thing with this one, you have to open in a certain program because it's a different database. Also to keep that in mind. I think it's for this one. Yeah, so for this one, it's a different format. You see here it has the IP first and then these numbers here. And these numbers are actually a time and date just in a different format as well. And if you didn't know what type of format you're working with, usually like you can like copy and paste a line or what I like to do is just search up like oh like random numbers at front followed by IP like log format what or I just search up log formats in general and just compare side by side. But in the cheat sheet, I'll include like a website that you guys can go to. So back to this. So now I'm dealing with the authentication log. Okay, so now I have the data here. And we have a whole bunch of lines, and we gotta see what the question's looking for, but just to start off with some basic commands. So say I wanted to see where where the connection was accepted from. So let's see here. So you see how all the failed attempts had a failed password and connection from port. But if we only want the like right connection and what's successfully connected, so we can do something like connection with the grep command. But if you want to be more specific, let's see received. Or actually not received. Let's say accepted. So now I see here, it took all the lines from this whole log file and it only returns what was accepted for that line. So that's just like using the grep command. So what this does is it search for things in like text files or any sort of file for a certain word that you came up with. So right here, I'm searching only for accepted with the capital A because it can be like the syntax can be very tricky and it can be like very specific. So right here, I'm just looking for accepted to see when the person actually got in because maybe that's an answer to a question. I just want to get to it right away. So I use the graph command for that. What if I only want to look like at a certain area in a field, like say for other logs, it will be way longer. Then that's where the cut command can come in handy. So I do cut sd say 1, 2, 2. So now I only have the dates here. And with this, I can do a whole bunch of stuff. Like I can count how many lines were there. I can just look at the specific date I wanted to see, oh, maybe like, is there any discrepancies in the data? So I can just look like right here and it's like a really quick view for me to see, oh, did any J's change or did it go from like 11 to 9 to 11? Like, was there an error in the log? Like maybe one of the questions asked that. So basically how I did this command is I used the cut command, and what this does, it cuts the log and only presents the data in which you want to look at. So right here, I use cut and then -d is your delimiter. You're basically telling the program, okay, I want to cut the lines, but how should I do it? Should I do it by space? Should I do it by a comma? Should I do it by a slash? So I'm basically telling you for every space, it's its own field. So this is a field and this is a field. And I want to specify what fields do I want. So that's where I use the -f 1 to 2 because I only want the first two fields. But say you wanted like another different field, then you can always change it too. Like 3 to 5. And now here I only have the time, the host name, and like the pretty sure this is server software. I'm not sure what exactly this field is, but it should be I'm pretty sure it's like server software or something. And yeah, so that's how you can filter it through there. And from here, when you get to other logs, you'll come to a point where you do have to filter the information, or you have to cut the information to see what you're looking at to make it easier to view. And then with this, I can also do other commands such as sort. So say your log command is like jumbled up and like you receive the log command for like the prompt would be like, oh, you like broke in, but before you're able to download the file completely, the hacker like scrambled the data. So say you need to sort it, you can just simply type the sort command and they will sort it for you. Luckily for this log though, it's already sorted for us. So it doesn't really do much. But it's always good practice to sort it first before you cut it. That way you make sure all the information is in order and it's easier to view. Then another thing I can do is word count. With this, I can actually I can actually display how many lines there are. And then this just tells me other information. But with this, it tells me how many lines there are without actually looking at it. And if I didn't have like this little table, so say like, oh, they asked like how many lines were in the program or file captured. And then with all these, they all have specifics, like with the cut, have the -d and the -f. So, but what if you didn't remember everything? So we can go back to the man commands. We can go to say man cut. And over here, it shows us what it does. It shows us how to use it, and it shows us the different operators that we can use. So over here, I use -d for the delimiter, and then -f for the select only these fields. So if you forgot how to use this, always refer to man command to see how to use it, or like any other commands that you can use. And then say you want to sort it a different way, but you didn't know how to, man sort. This can ignore leading blanks, ignore cases, do a random sort. You can do a bunch of stuff. With all these commands and links, there's always different variations it could take on, but you don't need to remember those. Just keep in the back of your mind the most important ones that you use, but that will come over time as you use it. And then same thing for the workout command. Say you only wanted a specific thing. You look at the manual and see what you want. Then another command that is very useful is the unique command. And for this exercise, for this first problem, we won't really need it, but I'm just gonna show you guys anyways because you will need it for future problems. So if you go to man unique, so what this does is it says right here, it reports or omits repeated lines depending if you want it to omit it or not. And this can be really helpful because in the log, you get a lot of the same data like, oh, error, or this password didn't work, this password didn't work. But what I want only is the unique data types like, oh, the user was granted access or there's a password. And usually these lines are only said once, so you can use the unique command to quickly like print it. But you can also do other features like print all duplicate lines, prefix lines by the number of occurrences, skip characters, only print certain number of lines. And just a word of advice, before you use the unique command, always make sure you sort the log, or else the unique command won't work as intended. So say I use it over here. Actually, let me get rid of the cut. C unique C. So right here, I just did unique. Since these are all different times, that's why every one of them is unique. So you can see why in this problem, it won't really be much help to us unless we cut down the fields. So say we do from here. Notice how all these are different, but what if we just did it right here? We'll definitely omit some lines. So let's say, let's first look at what fields I want to look at. Not those. So let's go from 6 to 8. Okay, so now I have failed, connection, accepted. So what if I don't want to look at all the failed ones? So I go to unique. First I want to sort it, or remember to sort. And unique. Now I'm here, connection from, failed password. And now we're seeing like all the connections from the certain IPs. We're getting rid of the IPs already used. And say, and we're looking at different types of data. And if I want to go back, you can see all the failed passwords for we didn't really need and how many times the IP was used. So it's a good, nice way of sorting through the log if you wanted to use that. And I just want to check back and see how it looks if we don't sort it. So see how when we don't sort it, it kind of just gives us the same information. It doesn't really work as intended. So that's just a good pointer every time you want to use the unique command, just make sure to sort it beforehand. So now let's take this to the problem to see how we can use it to help us in the problem. So I want to do cat authenticate log. So what's the host name of the SSH server that's compromised? So what if I didn't know which field is the host name? Let's just search it up. So let's say, where is, so we can link through here. It's a string that is of output over the network. Let's just see here. So be hostname new server. Let's say SSH log format. Okay, so now we have something that looks like our log. Let's say, let's just go to alt, see if we can just find a website that can look for it. And here you can find where other people ask like certain areas. And then, okay, so this is the port name. Then here he's actually about the port. And then I'm just showing you guys, like, if you come across a log that you don't know, how you can like basically kind of find out on your own what you're looking at. So by default, sends long system information. Default. Just trying to find specifically where to, but as you guys know, this is the host name. I'm just trying to find specifically, and if I can't, then yeah, that's fine for now. I guess you guys kind of got like the process and idea of like, because for some logs I didn't know like what I was looking at, so this was like kind of the process I went through, and then I guess eventually you'll find out like this is the host name, and if not, you could always what I like to do too. I always just like to type in like random things to see like what will work for the answer. Like, so if I'm looking for a host name, I want to look for something legible. So I see my raptor here, and Harvey could even try SSHD if that doesn't work, but let's try my raptor. And then my raptor works. And then right here, we're looking for the first IP address to tag the server. So we can actually refer to this one at first, just see what's the first IP. So you see connection from this IP. So let's try to see that. That works. Because it was the first one to try to attempt to log in. Nice, that one works. Now we're looking for the second one. So we're looking for IP different from this. And also, if you didn't want to use the terminal, you could use Control F too. And it can look and omit certain things. So let's say if I don't want to see that IP again, I just copy and paste it here. And I just go until I find a break in between the lines. See over here, I went one by one, but after this one, it jumped. So that means a new IP was used. And if we go over here from where it jumped, we see that in these three lines, a new IP was used. Let's try that, and that one worked. Okay, so now we try these two. Let's see if it jumps again or if it takes us somewhere far. So here we're going line by line with the same IP. So same IP being used. And then I'm just looking for whenever it jumps or when it ends. So I'm seeing that it ends over here, 70 or 70. And now I'm seeing this new IP. And just to make sure if you ever use it, you could always look at your history to see if you used it before. So I know that I used the 169 and the 56. So I'm checking if that's the same with this one, and it's not. Now I have this one, the third one, the 30. Now we gotta look for the user. So you could do like the same thing I was doing before where I was searching up like, oh, how log works or how the line is. But from looking at the document, you can see that Harvey pops up a lot and you're seeing failed password 4. So whenever there's a failed password tip or connection, like, or correct password for, usually it's referring to the user because there's how there's multiple users for our computer. That's what it's gonna be referred to. So we see Harvey is always on these lines. So let's see Harvey. And that works. So from which IP address was the attacker able to successfully log into? And we actually found that out before from using the grep command. Let me just type it here actually. Side cat notification log. And from right here, I see accepted password from this IP and ask what IP I was looking for. So instead of searching through the whole log to see with where the accepted password is, I use the grep command just to search for accepted, which helped me find it way quicker. I tried it here, and then that was correct as well. So basically, log analysis is just reading logs. What can you do to search faster to get the information that you want for logs? And then when you move forward, there'll be more complicated logs. What one of the questions was like asking for a security system, and you have to find out like the timestamp in between where the security system wasn't working. There was when the error like occurred, because if you looked at the log, there's a time discrepancy in which the log was reporting where 2 minutes weren't reported. And like that was basically the answer for the question, like from this and this um, was when either the attack occurred or when it could have occurred. And then I tend to write all the commands that you use in the cheat sheet along with like a short description. So if you ever like get lost or don't know what to do, then I would refer to that. And then I think most of you guys have seen it already, but I'll just look in chat if anything. I should be adding more to it throughout this week since I'm starting to get everything down, and I was just busy at first with working with the club. But a lot of that stuff was dialed down, so now I can focus more on with this stuff. And yeah, that's basically it for log analysis. It's not really much. Also, a thing that people like to do is they like to go in Excel or Sheets, and they would paste the whole like say log onto it. Because if you know how to use Excel, you know how to sort through data. You know how to find like certain things you want if you're already comfortable with the program. So that's like one way to avoid the terminal if you don't want to use it. So say, let's see. I think I can just import data. Let me see. I wonder if I can just copy. Oh no, I don't really use Excel much for logs, but I know someone who has. So let's see if I can just paste it on. Oh yeah, I could just paste it on here. And then you can like sort it out to like for which each one is like a different column. Google Sheets is great for password cracking too. I use it for password cracking too. I never used Google Sheets for that. Or oh yeah, you could make your own word list on Google Sheets and then download it if you want to do that for a custom word list, like with the Pokemon one, instead of going into the terminal and doing Vim. That's another way you can do it. So you don't always have to like use the terminal or like use some fancy program. You could always just go to the basics or your roots, and then like I know Excel is like a lot of things that people use. Yeah, I just forgot the V, my guy. But yeah, because I know some messaged me on Discord and they for log analysis, they just use sheets and they're able to answer all the questions. So that's one way you guys can take it. And then now to get on to network traffic analysis. Mainly gonna be the same thing. It's just gonna be like looking at packets this time and seeing where data is and how data is structured. Let me log into my other accounts. It's already solved in here. And then for this one, it's just gonna be the same thing, just looking at information, sorting through what you need and what you don't need, learning what you're looking at with a large amount of data. And with this network traffic analysis, there are gonna be some different formats that you're gonna be looking at, which is the only tricky part, but with this one, it's very specific. Like, with these HTTP, FTP, DNS, those are all certain protocols that you can search up on the internet to find faster, like what format it uses and like how it looks. And for this, you can use Wireshark, or you can just use for every what you call it? For every exercise, they give you like basically a web platform of Wireshark, but it doesn't do as much as Wireshark. It's just a web-based program, so it doesn't have all the utilities, but for the easy problems, it's more than enough. But if you wanted to use Wireshark, the way you just launch it from the terminal is just by typing Wireshark, and then it open from here. And then if you wanted to view it here, just download it over here and make sure to save the file, and then you open it here in Wireshark. Then you don't have to open it from the terminal, you can just go open and then the certain packet you want. So just to start off with the first one, so DNS, we're looking at what type of DNS query is accepted, what domain was requested, how many items were in the response, was it TTL for all DNS records, and for this one, what is the IP address for the welcome subdomain? So for this, it's kind of like the same thing as a log analysis. We're just looking through the packets and seeing what the question's asking, and then trying to find the information in the large amount of data. So for this one, I'm gonna first start off is what I want to look at was the type of DNS query requested. So I want to look for something that says query on it. So right here, right away, we go over here, standard query. Okay, nice. So how could I use this to translate to an answer I'm looking for? So you want to know what the type of DNS query is requested. So we're looking at all these lines of text, and we're seeing that we can extend each one of them to get a bunch of information. But what we want is a DNS query. So if we go over here, DNS instance, and we have query right here. And then from here, we can look at certain queries. And right here we have, all right, so query, and then we have the type, then the class, and then the website being requested. So let's try AXFR here. And we see that's right. Nice. And if you didn't know that, you can also search up DNS, say format. Same. And over here, you can, some pictures of looking at the format. Also nice that when you search it up, you actually get stuff related to Wireshark, because on Wireshark, you can apply certain filters to look for either unique IPs or a certain IP. And I'm pretty sure there's some like cheat sheets if you search it up. This is why like it's better to launch up Wireshark on your own, because you can run commands like this. And over here, it tells you some syntax. TCP is another one we're gonna be looking at, and then HTTP is over here. And then from here, you can also see that there's a bunch of different things you can type into Wireshark. Like over here for display filters, if you want to make the data easier to read, or say you want to search for a specific IP, but I'll be linking a cheat sheet on the cheat sheet that we already have. So over here, you can search for a specific IP, stuff like that. So don't be afraid to Google things that you don't know about if you want to get to it quicker. Or if you don't know at all, it's always good to do your own research first before trying to use all the attempts you have. And if anything, they have guides too. So now if we're moving on to the next question, we want to see what domain was requested. And we already have that here. Domain usually refers to websites. Like where do I want to go? And we have here estes.com under the first query. And it even shows the name over here in its own subject. So let's try that. Estes.com. Now we want to look for how many items were in the response. So let's see where, if anything has response in it. So you see over here, response in 5. So let's see if 5 works. So 5 doesn't work. So let's see anywhere else that we can see that can tell us how many responses were there. So now I'm looking over here, I'm looking at standard query response. I'm looking at another thing that says response. And now I'm going into the name system. I see another word. I just see response again. So now I want to go over here. Now I'm seeing a different number requesting 4. I'm seeing the answers. So what yielded of this response? And now I'm looking at, oh, they went to estes.com, estes, welcome that, estes, and estes. So this is a specific response we're looking for. We see that there's 4 types or 4 different instances, and we also have requesting 4. So let's see if that works. And it does. Nice. So that's one of the like kind of troubleshooting things that you can go towards. See if the first packet can give you the response you need. If not, look for something else that has something in the question that you're looking for. So what is the TTL for all the DNS records? So maybe at first he didn't know what TTL was. So just search it up. So what does TTL mean? IT terms. So we're looking for a time to live. So TTL stands for time to live, for a period of time that a packet or data should exist on a computer. So nice, we know that this definition is good and applies to our specific scenario since we're talking about computer data, and it specifically says packets, which is what we're looking at right now. So what is the TTL for all DNS records? So if we want to look through it along, let's just go back to standard query. And let's see, let's look through some of the other options that we had. Since this short packet, I don't really have to go through much. Let's say over here. Let's see, I might need to. So right now I'm just looking for anywhere where I can say time to live. And you're just like kind of just sorting through. And then we see over here, time to live 128. So let's see if that matches up with any of the other packets that we see here. We see time to live 128 again. And we see time to live 128 again. Now that's under the IP version, so we can close everything else out. Just make sure. All right, so for everything, I'm getting 128. So let's try that. Okay, so that didn't work. So maybe it's not that, or it could be X in a specific format. Or maybe into like a Sunday specifically. So let's try looking at the certain packets to see maybe if that's what they're asking for. So we're looking at the response time, certain queries, nothing like that. Type class. So now we have something different here. Time to live 1 hour. Now we're seeing here, time to live 1 hour. Time to live 1 hour. Okay, so let's try that. 1 hour. I see that work too. Nice. So you can see there, if one thing doesn't work, try another thing. But mainly what you want to do is dissect the question and look for specific terms that you're looking for to see what you need. So that was just an example like, oh, if I didn't know where I was going, let me try a bunch of different stuff. Let me sort through it to see if I can find what I'm looking for. If I was really stuck, then just try search it up on Google or try looking at any cheat sheets, or maybe you can search up a specific filter that can help you get to the time to live, or maybe just look at, say, just look at DNS records and see where you can find where to find the time to live for all DNS records. And then lastly, we have here, what's the IP address for the welcome subdomain? Okay, so now I'm looking for a specific website, and I know this because I'm looking at domains. And remember, for the first question, we looked at what domain was requested, and it was the website. So now using that information, I want to go back to where the website was listed. And it was listed under answers. That's where we saw somewhere that said welcome. And here we have SS, 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 and we have welcome over here. And now we're looking for the IP address. So where would I find that? Under the welcome.ss domain. Let's see if we can find it there. And we have over here, name, type, host address, time to live, data length, and address. Nice, so we found the IP here. And let's try that. 1.1.1.1. And it worked there. Nice. So as you've seen here, it's just a lot of like going back and forth, knowing where you're looking at. If you've done traffic analysis before, this may be easy for you, but if you haven't before, I would say kind of just go for it. Like just go in it raw and then see what you can do. See what certain like tactics and ideas that you find are most helpful to you, because some people like to sort through different. And also be careful on what you're sorting through. So make sure when it's asking for certain domains or responses or say answers, that you're looking in the right area, because sometimes the areas could get confusing. And all this refers to a different section where you might not find something as an IP for a certain website. And if you ever get lost, just make sure to use the question to your advantage. Whenever you see something specific like DNS, try to, or if you see something mentioned like once or twice, or if you see something in the question popping up a lot, you could search that up too to see, oh, DNS record format. How can I find certain items in a DNS record? What could I employ? How could I use Wireshark to help me find this answer? And yeah, for these other ones, they just follow a different format in which you seek the data, and the data is just displayed differently. So it's basically like as if you went from like Windows to Mac. So that's the like main differences from using these different subdomains. And you'll see the way you get to this information is basically the same. Oh yeah, and I forgot over here, you don't have to go into Wireshark to display the filter. You can type in your own filters over here. But just with Wireshark, you have way more options. And then remember to do that again, you just go into terminal, type Wireshark, and then it launches the program for you. And yeah, that's about it. Most of the commands I'm going to be listing on the cheat sheet, in which I'll give a brief description, and then you guys can look at it there. And then I'll also put some like concepts like, oh, if you don't know where this is, then go to that. So kind of little pointers for if you get lost, and like what I did before for when I get lost. And yeah, so I would say you guys can try it on your own, the log analysis. I mean, I already did the first one with you, and then if you want me to do it again, then I can. And then I'll just try the medium and the hard to see how that works. And then I'll be doing like, when I do the weekly recap, I'll be doing the hard on my own. And then same for this one, I'll be doing Pindo or hard on my own too. So you guys can see like what I go through and see how I do it. And if anyone has any like questions or anything, they can just type it in the chat. I see some people came in later, so I can give you guys a quick rundown too. Okay, sounds good, Vinny. Yeah, I'll be here. I'll be like more the second part for people coming later, or if people need like help or review. Of course, anytime. And then I know, Sylvester and Mario and Jennifer, you guys came later. Have you done, log analysis or traffic, the modules in log analysis or network traffic analysis already, or not yet? No, not yet. I got you. It's all good. Bet. Oh, okay. And then yeah, all right. So I'll just go over it like real quick what I explained to Esma and Vinny. And then as well, you can like get started on the log analysis and network traffic and just like feel free to like unmute or just type in chat if like you have trouble or if you want me to like go over it again. But do you have any questions for the meantime? Or do you think you just want to try it on your own and see like what you run into? Not so far? Oh, okay. Yeah, for this it's mostly like playing around and kind of it's like learning through application. Alright, so just to go over before, so I talked about so the two modules that I'm going over today is log analysis and network traffic analysis. It's the easy and gymnasium. So if you guys so for now I'm only gonna be doing like the first easy one and the first easy one for network traffic analysis just to get you guys started. So you guys can kind of go from there and learn on your own and see where to start. So first things first, I'm going to start with this log and with log analysis. Basically what you're doing is you're looking at a lot of data in a certain file or packet, and based on the questions, you need to find what to look for in large amounts of data. Like for this packet, it's only 274 lines, which is not that bad, but for other questions or for problems in the future, you may get like a packet that's like 1,000 lines, or like you may want to record your own packet and then you want to sort through from there. So what I'm going to go over today is certain commands that can help you and some like little things in like format and like what to look for in the log. So to start off with this first question is, so we have here analyze this SSH log file to answer the questions. So here we have what's the host name, first IP, second IP, third IP, which user was targeted, and then for which IP was he able to log in. Okay, cool. So before I go into this, I'm just gonna briefly demonstrate some commands I use in log analysis and how they work. So to get started, if you want to view the own log in your own terminal, you just gotta click the blue text in the file and just go to save file. And then wherever you want to download it, just make sure to go in the directory that where you download it to access the file. So I already downloaded this earlier and it's in my downloads folder. As you see here, the way I want to access that is cat log space and the log file. And over here is just a nicer way of seeing the log. If I want to extend it, I could extend it more instead of covering the questions over here, which is nice. And then, so the first thing I'm going to go over is cut. So with the cut command, we could have the computer display certain information from certain fields that we want. So say I didn't want all this, right? I could have it so where I'm only displaying this information, what comes after the semicolon. Or what if I wanted information, say just failed passwords. I want to see how many lines of text failed password was, or if I just wanted to look at the dates. So with the cut command, I can do that. And with this, I can specify what is a field and what is not a field. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm doing cut dash D, double quotations, double quotations. What I'm doing here, what the dash D stands for is delimiter. So delimiter, you're basically saying, okay, so this is what's going to separate each field. And I put a space in between the quotations because I'm saying, all right, so I want to cut this log file and I want to say that each different field is separated by a space. So by saying that, I'm saying this is a field and this is a field because there's a space in between. And I want to tell them what fields do I want. Okay, so what if I just want to look at the date? So I go through field 1, 2, 2. There you go. Field 1 to 2. And then from here, I only have the dates. And you can just look through that, see, I only have dates, which is nice. So from here, you can use it to say if you had a different log file, you could look if there's any discrepancies in the data. So say if the question asks, was there any time period in which the log file was not recording, or based on this log, can you find certain error? So what if over here you could sort through it and then see maybe it jumped for like it keeps on 11, 11, 11, but it went to October 9th and then back to 11. So that's like a little neat trick that you can do with this. Then you can specify other fields as well if you didn't want that. Like let's say 5 to 8. And here now I have the SSHD, certain port, and the description of what happened if I don't want to look at the whole thing. So that's going to be a nice command that you're going to use in the future to specify certain fields that you want, because what you have is an overflow of data where line files leak into other lines, and it's just like really complicated to look at the data from there. So by doing this, you look at it from a different kind of view, and it just looks easier. And another thing we're going to look at is the grep command. You might have used this in over the wire before. So as you remember, the grep command looks for certain strings or letters or whatever you put. Basically, this is like it's like this command is just gonna find what you put in and only extract if what you told it to look for actually popped up. So let's say for this question, what can we use the grep command for? For this one, from which IP address was the attacker able to successfully log in? So what I'm gonna do now is look at the log file, looking at the format to see where it would say in the log file that the user was successfully able to log in. So I'm seeing failed password, failed password. So what's the opposite of failed password? Let's think if this log file uses accepted. So let's try to use accepted here. To see if we can get any line and which results in the IP that was accepted for without sorting through the whole file. So nice, we did. So from here, I was able to find which IP was able to successfully log in. And then I was able to see what the user for what that was in just a really quick manner instead of sorting through this whole thing and seeing, okay, this failed, where's accepted, where's accepted. I just used the terminal to my advantage. And from here, we can use that to answer question 6. And then some other commands that you can also use is sort. So say if this log file wasn't sorted already with all the dates and times, maybe let's say a scenario like you were given, like, oh, as we were retrieving the file, the hacker like scrambled the data, and this is what we have left. A nice thing to do is put the space thing, you do sort. And what this will do, depending on how you specified it, it'll just sort the file for you. So for this, it sorted it through date and time, but as it was given to us, it was already sorted that way, which is nice, but for other logs, you won't. And if you wanted to specify a certain way how you want to sort it, but you just didn't know how to, always refer back to the man command. And then from here, we can see different descriptions and different options that we can tell the command to do if you want to sort it a different way. And that goes with any of these commands. Like say you want to use the cut command because you remembered, okay, this is how I sort your file, but you just didn't remember how to use it. You go to man cut, and then from here, it tells you the certain options that you can do. And if you forgot just like say like how to use it, you could just look at the synopsis right here in which it tells you how to use the program. So that's sort cut. Okay, no problem. And then let's say, so another thing that you might find useful is the unique commands. So if you look at the manual for that, and unique, this command would do is get rid of repeated lines if you wanted to, or ignore certain cases. Or it'll only print like unique lines, which is the main function that we're only gonna be using it for. And what this will do, say, like for this one, it will not work because every line is different because it has a different timestamp. But say if they all had the same date with no timestamp, then you can use the unique command to get rid of, say, you don't want the same date over and over again. And the question asks what IP was a certain date found. Then you can use the unique command to like get rid of sort of all that information, which is nice. And even looking at the manual, once you get those unique sort of lines, then you can actually use it to count how many times that occurred, which is cool. Instead of like say counting by yourself. And I think this, and there's also a word count that you can use. This can be used in, I guess, cotangent with the sort commands, which this command will just basically like count how many lines there are, how many characters, bytes. This can be, or even a word count. This will be sometimes asking the question where you're asked to find a certain amount of, like, let's say requests. What you can do is just sort the file and then use the unique command in order to like say like only get requests. And then you can have it count it every time a get request was asked for. So now that we know all that, and don't worry about like memorizing all these. I'm gonna be putting it out with the cheat sheet, like all the commands that I tend to use for log analysis and a short description of what they do and how to use it. So let's just go through a question just to get started. So what is the host name of the SSH server that's compromised? So if they're looking at logs, I already know that the host name is in this format. It always appears between the date and time and this. And if that's something you didn't know, you can just search up SSH's authentication log format, or like simply search up where's the host name found on the SSH server. And from here, I know it's my Raptor. So let's just try that. Okay, nice. And then you'll see for other logs, they have different formats. So if you guys get confused, just don't be afraid to search it up. It'll save you a lot of time. And a neat little trick that you can do is that if you look at the question and you're looking at specific host names, usually they're like legible words or characters. So you can see here that the only legible things we have is my Raptor and Harvey. So my Raptor didn't work, you can just try Harvey, or vice versa. So you tried Harvey, you can just try my Raptor because there's not really any other things that you can choose from. I mean, SSHC doesn't, I guess someone can name that because this is stuff people name themselves. So that's a neat little thing that you can do too. Now I want to look for the first IP address to attack the server. So for this, we don't really need the terminal. We can just simply look at the log. So we just want to find the first IP that was trying to connect to the server. So yeah, from here, connection from, and this is the first IP. So let's just try that. And there we go. And we see that was correct. Nice. So now I don't want to see this anymore. So what I can do is I can actually use the control F on this and then just see like how many times it popped up. And I can just sort through it. And let's see if I find any gaps in between where a certain line of different IP was used. So I'm looking through here. All right, and now I just had a jump. So that means they used a different IP at one point. So we see over here, right before the jump, we have 56.13.188.38. And we see that's the second one because from these lines, we don't see any other IP. So let's try that. Okay, nice. So I'm gonna keep sorting through with the same IP to see if I can find another jump or to see where it ends. So I'm sorting through. I had a big jump there, but as I look back, it's mostly the same IP, and the reason for the jump is because the session was closed. We're seeing through here, the same two IPs are being used. But now if we look closer, where it ends, we're gonna have another big jump. And then from here, from this really big jump, we see a different IP was used. We see the same one over here with 56 was used, but now we have a different one starting with 30. If you didn't remember that, it's like, oh, what did I use it for? You can always just look at your history and which you submitted the attempts. Remember the first one started with 169, the second one started with 56. And we see this one starts with 30. So let's try this one out. Nice, that one worked. So now we're seeing what user was targeted. And we're seeing over here, the connections are mostly going towards a specific name. And I see here, failed password 4, failed password 4. And usually these failed passwords are gonna be for users because every user has their own password. And we see over here that only Harvey is being used. So let's try to see that. That one works. Nice, that does work. And if that didn't work, you can always search up, oh, where can I find the user in the SSH authentication log or any tricks or any commands that I can use. And then finally, what we have, from which IP address was the attacker able to successfully log in? And we actually solved that before when we used the grep command. So if we go back to the grep command that we used before, we want to search for where the user was able to log in from, and we saw that use failed. So let's try the other one, accepted, to see if that works. And yes, it is. We see the accepted password was for the same user. And now we have the IP in which that was accepted from. That's what the question's asking. So let's copy in that IP address. And boom, let's see. And boom, it worked. Nice. And if you didn't want to use the terminal or look at this, what some people do too is, oh, I accidentally closed it. They actually use Google Sheets or Excel. And that's a nice way to say if you aren't comfortable with using the terminal, or if you're just really good with Excel and you know how to sort through data and use certain commands on there, that's just a way better tool for you to use if you're more comfortable with it. Because for here, you got Sheets. As you can see earlier, I did it, but you can just paste the data in here. Now you can see how many lines are there. And then if you know how to use the unique commands or sort through commands over here, and it may be an easier time for you. So this is just like another tool or program that you can use to sort through logs if you feel more comfortable with that. Because I know somebody actually messaged me on Discord the other day that they use Excel as the terminal to solve like all these challenges and they found it way easier. So that's just one thing that you can do. Then now I'm gonna head over to network traffic analysis. And let me see on which account I didn't solve these questions. Alright, so I'll just both here and here. So I'll just run through it real quick. So with network traffic analysis, it's basically the same thing. In which you just analyze, now you're analyzing packets, which server was recorded, and you just analyze like what happened in a certain area. And from here, you're just doing the same thing. Basically, it's like you're given a bunch of data and you're looking through it, but it's a lot of data. So you're seeing what tricks and tools or certain commands that you can use to look for the specific answer you're looking for, or just looking in a certain place to find your answers. And with all these, they all come with certain types of format that may differ from one another. So first off, we're working with DNS, but there's also HTTP and FTP. So to start with this first one, we're looking at what we need to find, the type of DNS query requested, what domain was requested, how many items for response. Those are TTL for all the DNS records. Oh, no problem. Take care, Esma. And then was the IP address for the welcome subdomain. So a tool, if you didn't want to use the application that they gave you here on the web, you could actually go into the terminal and just type in Wireshark. For the easy ones, you don't really need to go into Wireshark, as the web program here will be more than enough to solve the questions, but for later on and for wireless access exploitation, we're gonna be using Wireshark. Or if you're already comfortable with Wireshark, you could just open it here. It comes pre-installed with the Cat Linux Preview virtual machine, which is nice. Instead of, but you could download this on your own too. And then you just download the file. And then you just go to file open. And you just open the file on your computer, wherever it is. So for this one, again, we're just searching through what we need. So we're looking at what's the type of DNS query requested. So right now I'm looking for a certain type. I'm looking for something that says query. So let's see through the packet if we get anything that says type of query or DNS query or something query. So for the first one, we see standard query. Nice. And some of the answers already gives you over here, but say if you didn't know what you're looking at, just make sure to follow where the trail where it says query. So we see all this, but we don't really need all that because we want to just look at the query. So domain name system, let's expand that. And now I want to see what type of query is being requested. And now I see queries again. So let's try looking in here to find our answer. No, we did. Nice. So we're looking at here on the type we're looking at type. We're looking for a certain type, and then we found it here, type AXFR, and that'll work. And then what domain was requested. Then we had the name here as well. And I noticed this because domains refer to websites or IPs that you go into that you can log in and browse through. So that's cells 1 and 2. And now we're looking for how many items are in the response. So now I'm looking for the same thing, but I'm looking for a response. So let's see if anywhere I can find a response. So right next, so with this one, it's nice and simple and it gives you the response right afterwards. Sometimes it may be for in the log or the packet. Right here, we see standard query response. Nice, so this is what we're looking for. So we gotta look in here. We're following the trail again, response. We don't need the other things. Now we see here answers. So we see how many items were in the response. So basically answers is like, okay, so this is what I got from the response. Now we see here, we see that there are 4 responses because there are 4 different things that we can expand information from. So we type in 4 here and it works. And if anything, it says over here requesting 4. So next we need to look at what is the TTL for all the DNS records. Okay, so what if I didn't know what TTL means? Simply just search it up. What does TTL mean in IT terms? And we see over here, so it means time to live. Okay, nice. So let's see if this definition corresponds to what we're looking for. So we see time to live is value for a period of time that a packet or data should exist on a computer or network before being discarded. So nice, this is exactly the definition we're looking for because we're dealing with packets and it matches packets in the definition. And we're being on a computer or looking at network and it has both of these here. So we're also with that. So now we know we're looking for what is the time to live for all the DNS records. So let's look for something that can say time to live. And if we actually look back at what we saw from we answered the question before, we find it right here, time to live. And then we see over here, 1 hour. So if you try 1 hour here, it'll be correct. And lastly, we want to see what is the IP address for the welcome subdomain. Okay, but didn't I see welcome before? Now, if I close that, I see that I do find welcome before here, welcome.ss.com. So, and now we're looking for the address and we're looking for somewhere where it says address. And here we have right here, address 1.1.1.1. And we just enter that here and then it'll be correct. So it's the same thing with any type of analysis. You're just looking through data and finding what you need to answer that question. But if you ever get confused, don't be afraid to search up some certain terms. Or if you find that you're kind of struggling what you're looking for, just refer to the same method. You look for something specific in the question and then see if you can find that same thing within the packet. If you need to, don't be afraid to look through the packet in itself and just kind of expanding everything and seeing where you can find the certain term that is in the question. And then I just did the same thing there. I searched the time to live and I'm seeing where in the packet it says time to live, and that's where I found my answer. And if anything, if you want to learn more, or if you want a different explanation, they have guides over here. And yeah, that's basically what I went over earlier. And then you guys can do the easy ones on your own and try to do like the easy, medium, and hard. And then when I release a weekly recap, I'm going to be doing the hard for the log analysis and the hard for network traffic analysis. So you can kind of see like what I do, what techniques I employ. And yeah, I'll just be here until 3 while you guys work on that. And then the second session will be at 4:30. You guys have any questions or just want to work? And do you guys have like any questions or comments or concerns? Just let me know. Feel free to type in the chat or unmute, whichever is fine for you guys.